Hi guys, and welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. What you see in the vise is an olive green cruncher. So without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise is a Hackle H260 barbless hook. This one's at size 10. It's finished on a heavy wire and in black nickel. The thread I'm going to be using today is a Simplify. It's a watery olive at 8/0. I don't know how well the camera will pick up the colour, but it's a lovely kind of lime green colour. As we're using thread today, I'm going to add a little bit of wax to the thread here. I don't know how well you'll see that, but there we go. I've got a little bit of wax onto my thread, just running my fingers through it to melt down the excess wax. Then I'm going to catch in behind the eye, and I'm going to use the rat's tail just to guide my thread down the shank of the hook. Now, I'm not a perfectionist, and touching turns is something that when I'm tying for myself I don't worry much about, because I am going to body up this fly, but I suppose it's good practice to get a complete bed of tying silk onto your shank of the hook. It just makes the rest of the material sit a little better, I suppose. So what I'm going to be using primarily for the tailing and for the front hackle is this lovely cape I've got here. Now again, I'm not sure how well the camera will pick up the colours, but it's lots of different shades of green. And for the tail, I've picked one of the backmost feathers, and I'm going to take about a half a dozen off the stalk. And here's a tip: when you're taking fibres from a stalk like this, if you bring it out at a 90-degree angle and pull it away, if you've got it right, mostly the tips will marry up, and that saves your job. So I want the tail about the same length as the body, so I'll just measure that up on the shank. Then I'll get a couple of loose turns just to hold the tail into place. Have a look at the length. I'm happy enough with that. I can come in and take my excess away, and then I'm going to just get a little bit of proper tying in at the front. Now, the reason I'm not come all the way back is I want to start adding in my various ribs that's going to be in this fly as I go, just to keep the body nice and thin. So first thing I'm going to do is add some wire. This is silver wire. It's at 0.1 millimeters, as you can see there. Again, although my thread's here, I'm going to catch it in the entire length of my body here. And then I'm going to get 2 or 3 turns in, and I'm going to stop again because there's another material to come in. So the main green banding of rib that you've seen on the fly, it comes from this. It's a uni mylar at 14, and it's a dual tinsel. It's green on one side and red on the other, and I do tie this fly with the red. I think a lot of people will recognise that as a Nemo cruncher. So I better tie that in, Yeah, so as I said, it's red on one side and green on the other. Now I want the green to show, so to do that I've got to put the green down onto the body of the fly first. I'll just hold that into place with my fingers and then get a couple of turns. Again, I'm not going to come all the way back yet. And last but not least, the body of the fly. You can use pheasant tail, but I've got this lovely dyed natural heron feather, so it's been dyed olive, and I'm using a bit of that. It's dead easy to work with, not quite as brittle as pheasant tail, so it comes out really nice. And what I'm going to do is just take the tip section of that away, and then I'm going to catch that in its entire length. So it's on my side, you might not be able to see, but it's the whole length again of the body. So now I can come all the way back to where the fly body's going to end, and then what I can do is very carefully come up the shank of the hook, and I'm keeping touching turns here just to keep the body nice and even, and I'm catching in all that material nice and solid. And I'm just going to add a little bit of wax to my thread. So we've now got three things tied in here. We've got our herring, we've got our green rib, and we've got our thin wire rib here. So first things first is I'm going to get a few extra turns in at the front, and the reason for this is I'm going to use the rotary function on my vise to initially bring my herring around the shank. So I'll just start to rotate my vise, and the beauty of doing it this way is you're avoiding the hook point and you're laying down a nice even body all the way up the shank, and you're not having any gaps because you can see it the whole way round. And then if you've put enough extra wraps in, what happens is you end up, your thread comes and meets your body material. So I've just put a couple of wraps in there, and then I'm going to come in with my scissors and take that away. So far so good. Next thing then is our green rib, and what I want to do is get at least 3 turns off the green rib. So there's 1, 2, 3. Now I'm not so worried about the 4th turn, so that'll just go where it goes, and I'll tie it in because that's going to be covered by the thorax. So I'm just getting a couple of wraps in front just to lock it into place, and then I can simply remove my excess. Tail's looking good length, and the last thing to be done is the wire rib. Now I came counterclockwise with my green, and what I want to do with my wire rib is go in the opposite direction. And what I'm doing is I'm using the green as a guide on my side to get it nice and even all the way up to the thorax area of the fly. Again, I'm going to get a couple of turns in here. You can be quite generous with your turns because we are going to use our thread to build up a thorax. Now I'm just going to helicopter away my wire, and what I want to do next is come all the way back to just about where that first rib is. And what I'm going to do is use my thread to build up like a little rugby ball shape in at the thorax here. Now once I'm happy with that, what I'm going to use for the thorax is, this is a peacock herald feather, and as you can see it's been dyed green. So I'm going to use 1 strand from the eye of the peacock herald, and I've got one out here already. Yep, I've taken some time to prepare today, which is unusual for me. So again, before I catch that in, I'm going to just add a little bit of wax to my thread, and then I'll get a couple of turns just to hold that into place. Now once that's in place, what I want to do is ensure, so this is very delicate, yeah, I want to make sure I get some longevity out the fly. I hate tying flies because all the flies I tie, well, most of the flies I tie are for fishing with, and after they've been hit by a couple of fish, if you don't do this next stage, then your fly will just disintegrate. So what I've got here is a little bit of super glue. Now I've trimmed the brush down so it's easy to do this, and I'm going to get a bit of super glue onto the thorax there, and I want to get it all the way round. Make sure the thorax is going to be well bedded in. And once I've got that little coat of super glue all the way around the thread thorax I've just built, I can grab my Peacock Eye, and I'm going to just, in touching turns, come around the thorax area. And then again at the front here, not overly worried because my hackle will hide the multitude of sins. Now again, it's tempting just to pull away, but I'm going to come in with my scissors. You don't want to put all that hard work for now. And again, we're going to come back to our lovely cape here. And again, I've already picked out a feather here I've got ready. So it's a nice light green feather. And again, a little more wax just to catch that stalk in. Now I've cut the stalk just a little bit too long. So I'm going to just remove that slightly. And then I'm going to bring my thread around. I've caught the stalk in place. And then it's simply a case of coming in with the hackle pliers and bringing that around. Now what I'm looking for hackle wise, and everyone will be different, I like to have an in-between if you like. So some people like it really sparse, they'll have 1 turn or 2 turns. Other people will have 4 or 5 turns to give it a bushy appearance. Now I kind of like the happy medium of, you know, I want there to be a hackle there. The whole idea of hackles in these flies, you can fish them quickly, but I tend to fish mine quite slowly. And the bigger, bushier hackle you've got, the slower the fly will descend in the water column. So I kind of have an in-between. I've just slicked everything back there. And I'm just trying to tidy up the front as I build my head. Now as I come further back, I can then remove the excess there. And I probably want another 2 turns of thread there. And then I can come in with my whip finish tool. Just keeping tension on the thread, because there is a danger of it sliding off the front of the hook here. And I'm going to use the whip finish tool just to build that head a little at the front. And then once I've got it whip finished, I can come in with my scissors and just remove the excess. Now it's a fairly large head at the front of the fly, and to finish off I'm going to use UV resin on this occasion, but you can use varnish and super glue, just whatever you prefer. It's down to yourself really. Now the thing we use in Solaris here, it's a very thin resin. So what I want to do is, I know the eye will be cleared. I'm going to just pop a feather through there, and then I can cure it off. And the job's a good one. Well, I hope that was of some use to you. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.